so much for joining. My setup is actually right over here on the side, so I'm just gonna turn off my camera in a second because you don't want to see the side of my head probably. Anyways, I'm just gonna go ahead and start sharing my screen here. And let me know if you guys can see my screen okay.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, great. So thanks everybody so much for joining, obviously, for this session. This is going to be really an introduction to Power Virtual Agents, obviously, but before we get started, I just want to go ahead and introduce myself real quick. My name is Dian Taylor. I'm originally from the Netherlands. I actually moved to the US about 16 years ago. I work for RSM in their TMC, Technology Management Consulting practice, as a director. I'm also a MVP. And if you guys want to take a look at, some of the stuff on here, you can follow me on Twitter at D365Goddess, which is also the domain for my blog. I actually post every week. I do videos every week. Feel free to also connect on LinkedIn. That's what you see, that big icon that you can just go ahead and scan with your mobile, and then we can connect on LinkedIn. So feel free to do that as well. All right, let's dive right in. So the agenda today is we're going to talk about what it actually is, right? Power Virtual Agent. I'm sure not everybody knows exactly what it is, how to get started with that. Basically, I'm going to talk a little bit about how can you set up a very quick 30-day trial. And I would really recommend doing that so that you can kind of play around with it a little bit, get to understand how it works, right? Work with all the different components. Then we're going to talk about the topics and the trigger phrases. What are those things and how do they work together? The authoring canvas. I'm going to do a ton of demos. I think I have about 4 demos. I just always like doing demos versus write slides. I'm sure all of you guys do as well. And then we're going to talk about entities and then obviously more demos. So let's first talk about what is Power Virtual Agent, right? Well, it's nothing more than, obviously, right, AI and Chatbot Saturday. It's Microsoft's version of a chatbot. And I'm assuming everybody knows what that is, right? So it's really Microsoft's answer, like I said, to chatbots. The big difference here is that Power Virtual Agent allows users to create these bots using very simple and an easy to use interface, really without the need of code. You could still put code in there, but you don't have to. And I think that's really a big difference with Microsoft's version of that. So also keep in mind that Microsoft designed Power Virtual Agents really with 3 key personas in mind, right? So one is going to be your customers, and these could be internal, right? Like employees. Think about, right, an HR. You could have an HR bot, right, that you put on SharePoint, and internal customers can then, right, ask questions to the bot without having to call your HR department. It could be external customers, obviously, as well, right? Think about going to a website and asking about the status of your order, right? Then the second part of this is the subject matter expert. And these are just the people that really don't know a lot about coding, probably nothing, but they do have, they are experts in regards to what should the bot talk about, right? What are some of the topics we want to discuss or allow people to talk about with this bot? So that's kind of what that subject matter expert is. And then, excuse me, lastly, obviously, we have the ability for the admin and development in case we do want to add some code. But again, it's not required, and that's what makes this so exciting, right? So here's some highlights of Power Virtual Agents. So it has, as you can see here on the screenshot, it probably looks a little bit complicated the first time that you see this, but it really isn't. It has a very simple interface where you can just basically drag and drop stuff. You can add questions, you can add answers that people can kind of pick from, and then we can also have users enter, right? If a question is asked, enter information, answer an answer, for example, and then we can actually capture that information that's been entered by the user as well. And those are captured in variables. We'll go into detail a little bit longer, but those are some of the things that are, I think, the most important things related to Power Virtual Agents. Now, obviously, it's part of the Power Platform. It's built on top of the data connectors, the portals, the CDS, and the AI builder capabilities, as you probably already know. So let's talk about how you can get started, right? So you can just spin up a trial. And like I said, I would really recommend doing this so you can kind of play around with that a little bit at HTTPS, so Power Virtual Agents .microsoft.com. So that shouldn't be too hard for you guys to remember. But keep in mind that you can't use a personal email address. You have to use a work email address for that. So you just go to this particular screen, right? Start free. Then when you sign in and then when you create a new bot, the first thing that's going to happen is a default environment is created for you. And you can also obviously create additional environments. And this is also where that information, the bot information is stored, right? So I'm just going to go to the next screen. This is what that looks like. You're going to be able to create that new bot. You're going to put a name in, you're going to put a language in, and they just came out with an update where there's a lot more languages that you can pick from now. And then you're going to select the environment for the bot as well. You just click on create, and then this screen comes up, and then you just have to wait, obviously, right? It's going to take a couple of minutes, and then while this is already going and churning in the background, you can already start to explore Power Virtual Agent while this bot is being created, obviously. And the next screen that you will see then is right here. This is that home screen, right? So you can kind of see it looks very similar to Dynamics 365, where we have on the right hand, or sorry, on the left hand side, we have right our navigation area. So currently we are on the home page. We have topics, we have entities. We can take a look at some of the analytics about how our bot is doing, and then we can publish, and then we can manage. So I'm going to talk about each and every section that I just went over with you guys, because those are really all the different components that make up Power Virtual Agent. So let's take a look, right, at each of those individual components. So we're going to start with these topics. So topics are, think about them as a conversation path that allows users to have a conversation, but one that feels natural and flows appropriately. So we can configure these topics using the authoring canvas to ask questions to user. We can configure responses, we can show messages, etc. So you can have several of those topics, right? That's what you see in here. I have one that says recruiting, service provider help, store hours, right? But each of those obviously is also going to have trigger phrases. And I'm going to talk about trigger phrases in a second here. Now, we also, as you can see, can turn topics on or off. That means that people can just not access them through the bot at that particular time. You can see that status button. That's where you can just very quickly turn them on and off. Then we have suggested topics. With that, we have the ability to leverage existing web content to create new topics. Now, keep in mind that the content needs to be in the form of FAQ pages, or support sites. You will then need to approve those imported topics, and you might have to tweak them a little bit, but this is a very, very quick way to add topics to your bot very, very quickly. Now, when you create a bot for the first time, the system actually automatically creates a number of lesson topics. And those are really kind of for you as the VPA admin to kind of learn how to create content, right, for your bot. They're not really for production use, but you can kind of dive in there a little bit and kind of see how that works. So we'll show you that in a little bit as well. Now, trigger phrases, it already kind of says it, right? These are phrases or keywords or questions or whatever that a user is likely to ask that bot, right? And it usually is related to a specific issue, right? So the bot will then route a user to a topic based on these trigger phrases. And a big part of conversations that you've probably heard already is about natural language understanding. And what that is, because the first time I heard it, I was like, what is that? What is that? That's the ability for AI to understand a user's intent. So for example, somebody might type in, hey, I tried to use my gift card, but it didn't work. And the bot will still be able to route the user to the gift card topic even if that exact phrase isn't listed as a trigger phrase. So, right, you don't have to exactly type in those trigger phrases. It could be something similar to that, and then it would still route the user to the correct topic. Now, the authoring canvas, we kind of saw this in the beginning. This is where the topic writers will spend probably most of their time, because this is where everything is configured. So questions, answers to those questions, actions, right? What am I supposed to do? What's the bot supposed to do when they get a certain action, right? That's where you do that in that authoring canvas. And then admins can type in the question that the bot will ask to the user. They can configure those responses, right? We can even store those responses as well. And we store those in variables. So think about what you see over here, right? We can see here, which location are you interested in? And then we can pick from these: Bellevue, Redmond, Seattle. What we can do is we can actually store that value, right, that the person is going to enter. So if they select Redmond, we can store that response, as you can see over here, save response as, and then we can remember, the bot can remember that, and they can bring it up later during the conversation. So for example, you might ask in the beginning of the conversation, what is your name, right? And then you can later on during that conversation, you can say again, hey, whatever the name was, what they typed in, right? You can reuse that during that conversation. Now, this is part of the authoring canvas. This is some of the options that we have in when we're using questions and when we're using messages, right? So you can kind of see here, number one, that's showing us the formatting options that we have. So we can put in links. You can see here the different, right? We can have these lists. We can have links in there, italic, etc. So you have very simple formatting options as well. Then ask a question, that's number two. So what we're looking at right now is a message, but then this is basically the next step. I'm going to click here on this little circle here, and then I can have the bot do certain things. Do I want him to ask a question? Really what that is just, again, displaying that question, and then we can use those variables I mentioned earlier to capture the user's response, right? We can also call an action, which allows us to trigger outside logic from Power Automate or from skills. And skills are a series of actions which can be built using the bot framework. So we can call those actions. Then we can show a message. That's what you see over here. It's just showing text to a user. Obviously, there's not going to be a response, right? Because we're just showing a message. We can also go to another topic. Maybe all of a sudden during the conversation, they start asking for something else. If they do that, we can just go and send them to a different topic. And then lastly, we can end the conversation either with a survey, or we can transfer to a live agent. And I'll touch on that a little bit later as well. So let's go ahead and dive right into the demo here. I'm just going to pick up here my Power Virtual Agent. I'm already logged in, as you can see here. So the first thing that I wanted to do here real quick is just show you what that chat looks like, right? So I already set up a topic here. I'm going to go here to Power Virtual Agents. This is the test website that actually comes with Power Virtual Agent. And this is not, you shouldn't be using this for production. This is really for you and your team to kind of test this bot out, right? To make sure it's doing what you want it to do. So I'm just going to type in, I love Star Wars. And I'm going to start that conversation with my bot. So what it's doing right now is it should recognize something in what I just typed in, and then basically direct me to the correct topic, which it just did. Hello, my little Padawan. I hope all is well with you. How are you planning to use the Force? Well, let's go and use the dark side. And let's see what the next question is. Why do you want to join the dark side? Well, I want to rule the universe. Of course. Hello. Sounds a little selfish to me. Maybe you should reconsider. What? Okay. Why do you want to join the dark side? So you kind of see that it looped me right back to the same question.
And we're just seeing your PowerPoint. We're not seeing your screen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that. Let me refresh my screen.
Yeah.
Let's see here. How about now? Let me just Screen. Okay, I guess I was sharing my PowerPoint versus my screen, so that
Yeah.
explains it.
Now we see your screen.
Perfect. I'm so glad
Okay.
you said that.
No
Yes,
worries.
thank you. All right, so let's do this again. I love Star Wars. Here we go. And here's my feedback from my bot. Hello, my little Padawan. I hope all is well with you. How are you planning to use the Force? Well, I already kind of gave it away, right? While you guys were staring at my PowerPoint. I'm going to the dark side and I'm going to rule the universe. So you can see this is what I was talking about. It's just, it looped me right back to this question. It says, this is selfish. I want you to pick something else, because if I click this again, it's going to loop me right back again. So I'm going to say, I'm going to kick Kylo Ren's behind. All right. And he said, awesome. I never liked a guy. Pick a weapon. So now I have the ability, right? It's basically showing me that I can pick these from these different options here. So I'm going to say, I'm going to do the red lightsaber right over here. And then great choice. I love the red lightsaber. Great. Pick your partner in crime. I'm going to say Darth Vader. And then it says, all right, this is what I have for you. You want to join the dark side to kick Kylo Ren's behind. My partner is Darth Vader and my weapon is the lightsaber. Perfect. Do you want me to email it to you? No, I do not. Right. So these are just some of the things that we can do, right? We can ask a question. We're grabbing stuff or we're really saving stuff, right? That just came in that I answered. I'm going to run this again. I'm going to say, I hate Star Wars. Let's see if it picks it up then. It should. Yep, it does. Now I'm going to go to the light side. Some of the other things that we're going to be able to do soon, not yet, but soon, I'm actually going to say, why do you want to join the light side? I'm going to meet Yoda. He seems very cool. Soon we're going to be able to also, he is a pretty little green dude. I was going to say, where's my picture? Soon we're going to be able to also pull in pictures. Like this guy, Yoda's like, oh, thank you. He's very cool. We had lunch yesterday. And then it's going to, again, ask me to pick my weapon. But I just wanted to show you guys that as well. So let's take a look at that real quick. I'm going back here to PVA. I'm going to go directly into my topics. And I'm going to go here to Star Wars. Now, remember, I just talked about some of those trigger phrases, right? You can see here the trigger phrases. I want to join the dark side, Jedi, hello. The Force, I want to know how to use the Force. I want to learn more. You can see that nowhere in here says it, I love Star Wars, right? The topic's name is Star Wars, but it doesn't say it in here. So it kind of learns as it goes, right? And the other nice thing with these trigger phrases is, right, like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be exact. So once you set up your trigger phrases, let's now go to the authoring canvas that we just talked about. And oops, that's the wrong one. Oh, there we go. Here it is. So here are my trigger phrases. And this was that first message that it gave me, right? Here is, hello, my little Padawan. You can even test your bot as we're doing this. I'm going to actually reset this right now. Oops, reset. And you can kind of track what it's doing. So let's do this one more time as we can see where it's going. I'm going to say, I love Star Wars. And you'll see in a second on the side here, it's going to follow that conversation path, right? It just showed me the message and then it asked me that question, right? That's where we are. And then it's asking me, how are you planning to use the Force? And I'm going to say dark side, and it's going to see that and it's going to follow this condition, right? Let's go back here. How you plan to use the Force? I have two options, dark side or light side. If it follows this condition, it's going to ask this question, why do you want to join the dark side, right? I want to kick his behind or rule the universe. So this is what we saw earlier, rule the universe, and it just sent me right back to this question. Right, so you can do things like that. And I'm going to show you that in a second as well, how to do that. So let's go back to topics and let's start a new topic. So you can just go ahead and click new topic. And chat bots. Do you like chatbots? I'm just going to add this. How do you feel about AI? I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to go through my authoring canvas. So those are my trigger phrases. So that should tell the bot to route them to this Dynamics 365 Saturday AI and chatbots bot. And then here we are. This is what it looked like when, for the first time, you actually open up this authoring canvas. So you can see it starts with a message. You don't have to start with a message. If you don't want to do that, if you just want to immediately start with a question, you just click delete and you click on this plus button. So this is what we just saw in the slide, right? I can do all of these different things. The first thing, obviously, that I want to do is I want to ask a question. Again, what we just saw earlier, right? I have these options where I can format, and I can even put in variables if I wanted to. Now, I don't have a lot of variables here because I haven't asked any questions yet. So I'm just going to say, are you enjoying this session? And then I'm going to say, I'm going to give people two options, yes or no. I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to say, whoops, no. This is how simple this is, guys. Do you see that? I have also the options to pick different things here to choose how to identify that. And we're going to get into that in a second. We're just going to keep it simple right now. So what this is doing is, right, is asking a question. Are you enjoying the session? Yes or no? And then what I can do here is I can, if they say yes, I can do something. I can ask another question. I can show a message. I can go to another topic, or I can end the conversation either with a survey or transfer to an agent. Right? So I can ask another question. What do you like about this most? Or I can say, let's do this. Please rate this session between 1 and 10. And I'm going to give them a message. Well, maybe you should leave the session then, right? If they don't like it, maybe you should leave. I'm going to end the conversation with a survey. Maybe you should leave. Bye, right? Maybe here we want to rate this session between 1 and 10. And I can make this multiple choice option, or I can just have them put in a number. We'll talk about that in a second. So that's how easy you can start building your chatbot. Then I can just go ahead and save this when I'm done, and then I can start testing this stuff out. So let's just leave this here, and I am going to not put in a condition. And what I am going to do, I'm actually going to rename their response. This is my rating that they're going to type in, and I'm going to show a message, and I'm going to say, thank you. The rating 10, 5 seems pretty good. Now I'm going to end this with a survey. And now I'm going to save this. Save it with yes. Here we go. We don't need options. We just want them to type it in. Oops. Let's just save that. Oops, it does not let me do that. Save. Okay, now let's take a look here. Let's try this, right? Let me see here. Do you like chat bots? Let's see if it can find this guy here. And it's still sending. There we go. It just picked it right up. Are you enjoying this session? Yes. Please rate the session between 1 and 10. I'm going to type in a 5. And it says, thank you. Oh, 10 is what I put in there. Oops, that's why I manually put it in there. That seems pretty good. Did that answer your question? And then I can say yes or no, and then the conversation will be ended. So that's how easy and how quickly you can. I just did that in what, like 2 minutes, right? That's how quickly you can basically do that. Now let's go back and to the slides here and talk about some of the other things that we can do here. So now keep in mind that the bot doesn't follow the dialogue script blindly. It actually is very intelligent, and it uses all the information it has to decide when to ask a question and when to skip them. So for example, if the user already provided information earlier in the conversation, the bot will actually remember that and then skip asking for that again. So if you already gave the information, then it's going to know that. So I'll show you that as well. Now, for any bot to be actionable, obviously it has to be smart like that, right? So it really needs to understand what the users are saying and what some of that intent is, right? So Power Virtual Agent comes with a set of pre-built entities is what they're called. And what those are is they're really like the most commonly used stereotype of information in those real world dialogues or conversations. So think about, you know, age and color and numbers, names, right? So this really kind of helps the bot to recognize information from a user input, and it even allows us, we already knew this, to save that for future use as well. So think about entities as, I guess, like a way to tell your bot what to look for in that unstructured text, right? We understand when somebody types something in, usually what they mean, but obviously this is a bot, right? So this is where these entities come in. And now we can, like I said, tell them what they're supposed to look for in those responses that we're getting from our users. So for example, when a user inputs, it costs $1,000. If you're using a money entity for that particular question, when you're asking how much was it, and you're saying my response is going to be the money entity, then the bot knows that $1,000, that represents money, right? That type of information. And then when the bot extracts the information that was typed in, right, it costs $1,000, it knows that it only needs to save 1,000 as a number, even though the surrounding information that was typed in was text. So that's kind of how those entities are used. Now, we can also create our own custom entities, but they work a little bit different than the out-of-the-box entities. It really, custom entities is usually lists that can be used to group or categorize words together. So for example, if you're building a bot to handle lawn questions, you might have an entity that's called lawn concerns with values such as brown spots, lawn pests, right? I did a bot regarding Star Wars. So I have a topic, or sorry, I should say an entity that's called Star Wars, and then I put my items in there. I just figured that this would be a little bit better of an example. Now, by grouping these items in one list, it really kind of allows the bot to more easily understand the data that is entered. He knows now that if somebody puts in or types in lawn pests, oh, that's a lawn concern, right? The other thing that we can do here, that we have here, is that smart match option, and that is part of the intelligence that's supported by the bot's language understanding model. It provides the flexibility to let the bot take in that user input in a, what should I call it, like a fuzzy way based on the list of items giving to that entity. And when this toggle is on, it really lets the bot recognize items in the list, even if the customer misspells a word, or when they use a word that is similar, right, to that particular word. Maybe think about matching the word job to career. Those are very similar to each other, right? And it would understand that. And we could also set up our own synonyms, which that's really allowing us to kind of manually expand that matching logic that's already in there. So smart match and synonyms really work well together to make your bot even smarter and to understand that customer input even better. All right, so let's go back to yet another demo here. And the first thing I wanted to show you is what I just talked about, those entities. Yeah, we can go away from here. Let's talk about those entities. So you can see here pre-built, right? Those are those entities that actually come with that bot. So let me go, for example, to this money, right? This is, oh, let me just go ahead and refresh this. This is really what I was talking about earlier, basically telling them what these guys are going to enter, right? What your customers are going to enter. Let me go back here to money. Oh, that's weird. It doesn't let me do that. Well, let's go load that one more time. It does not like that. Can I go here? Yeah, this is one that I entered myself, right? So here I have long concerns. I have brown spots, which is the same as bare spots, and brown patches. And again, you can very quickly just type in and enter here and then click add. And if you want to add a synonym, again, you just click on this plus button and that allows you to very quickly do that, obviously. Now, I have a topic here where I'm using that lawn concern. So let me actually go and show you that topic. And I have to see lawn. Here it is. And oops. So here are some of my trigger phrases that you can see here. And I'm going to go to the topic now. Now, this is where you can see in the question where I can point to that entity. I actually have here my lawn concerns. I can search for this, right? So this is what I did. I just clicked on lawn concerns. And now when people are actually going to respond to this question, they will see whatever options I have in here. So you saw earlier that I have a whole bunch of options in this list, but here I'm just looking for two answers, either brown spots or weeds, right? None of the other ones. If I wanted to show additional ones, all you have to do is, again, just click on this so that the system knows, the bot knows, right, what we're looking for. But again, we're just looking for those two in this particular case. Again, the system we can then say, okay, if it's brown spots, show this message. If it's weeds, show that message. And anything else, go here, right? So that's kind of how that is. So what I wanted to show you now is really just that the bot can also, like I said earlier, it can actually skip a question as well. So we're going to pull up that bot again. And I'm just going to type in, you can see here that normally if I have any of these trigger phrases, it would say, sure, can I help you with your lawn concerns? What's the issue? But it should now actually skip directly to the next section of that question. So I'm just going to ask this question. And there it goes. It just skips this beginning part, right? You can see there's not a check mark here because it actually already knows that I'm looking for weeds. That's what it did. If you actually look over here, this is where these variables are stored. You can see here that the outcome of this question, whatever the answer is to this question, can I help you with your lawn concerns? What's the issue? Here is called concern. So the system, because I asked, I have weeds in my garden, recognized the name weeds and put it in that question and basically said, oh, they already answered my question. So since they mentioned weeds, I want to now show that particular message. So that's kind of how that works. Now, you can also see here that it's asking me, please provide me with your email address. And this is actually tied to the email, as you can see here, to the email entity, right? What that means is that, again, it will be able to pull out the email address. So if I'm going to say my email address, is, I don't know, Dian123@yahoo.com. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. It knows that it's looking for an email only. And as you can see, it's only extracting from that answer the email address, and the text that's next to it. It doesn't really care about that. So again, it really helps to be able to use those entities, obviously, as we're building our bots and we're setting up those questions. Okay. Now, this is kind of some other stuff that already kind of talked about a little bit, right? We already know that we can skip questions if the information has been entered already. But we can also enable the bot to act on behalf of your customer. What does that mean? Well, we can actually configure login experiences. We can also use tools like like we can use Flow or Power Automate, I should say. We can build flows using Power Automate and have the customer set up an appointment, or we can create a task. You can connect this Power Virtual bot to your Dynamics 365 sales instance, for example, or customer service, right? You can have, because they work so well together, and we can call these actions, we have the ability to use Power Automate and all its power that comes with it, pun intended, right, with Power Virtual Agents. So now it starts to become interesting, right? And I'm going to have an example a little bit later on as well, where I can start typing questions into the bot. The bot can ask me for my email address, and then it can query my database, my Dynamics 365 database, and it can pull back information regarding that customer based on their email address, right? And now I can do all sorts of different things. I can also, using Power Automate, see how many orders they have. I can ask for the order number and then again query the database and come back with the status of that order, right? So again, really allowing us to do a lot of things here with just using Power Virtual Agent. Now, PVI also comes with analytics, obviously, and I don't want to spend too much time on this. Again, this is that analytics tab that we have over here. And there's a lot that we can kind of take a look at. You can really see how your bot is doing, right? Here's another one, the engagement and the session's outcome over time. This is kind of important because it kind of tells you how good your bot is doing, and maybe you need to change some of those questions and some of those paths, some of the topics, right? And this is where you can really kind of take a look at that as well. Again, right? What are some of the resolution drivers, escalations, and maybe even abandonment rate drivers as well. Okay, so I'm just going to go right back in my demo again. I told you I love doing demos. So the next thing that I wanted to do here is show you what I was talking about earlier, right? That the system can actually talk to, for example, Dynamics 365. So I'm just going to go and close this. Oops, I'm going to go back here to my, let's just go back here. I'm going to go back to my topic, and I'm going to pick, this is the one, and I'm going to pick that one so you guys can kind of follow along what it's doing. I'm going to reset this. I'm going to go to my authoring canvas. And what this is going to do is it's going to talk to my Dynamics 365 instance. So I'm going to say, load my demo scripts. So it directs me to this topic. And here we go. Do you want us to contact you later? I'm going to say yes, right? Maybe this is on a Saturday, like today or Sunday, and it's going to ask me for my first name. My first name is Angel. My last name is, you know what? I'm going to say Angel Johnson. I'm going to lie to the bot. And then my email address is, oops, is just this. And what it's going to do right now is it's going to check my database. It's going to see if I have a lead with that email address or a contact. You could set it up this way as well in my database. And if I do not, it's actually going to create a task for this lead. And if I do have this person in my, or I should say, if I don't, it creates a lead. And if I do have this person in my database, it is actually going to create a task. Well, I do have this person in my database, so it should have created a task. So I have here my advanced find from Dynamics 365. So I'm just going to run this and see if it created a task just now. And here it goes. So let me just show you. This one just got created just now, as you can see. Let me just load this up. So, and this is a bot inquiry, right? It came through my bot, and it is a follow-up is required for Angel. And then of course you can have additional logic as well, right? Regarding Angel, as you can see. So here is some of the power that I discussed earlier, right? This is a step where this is an action step where I am selecting a flow. So what we're doing is we're actually getting input into Power Automate. I get my first name, I get my last name, and I get my email address. And then I'm using Flow to query my database to see, hey, do I have a lead in my system with this email address? If I don't, create a lead. If I do, then create a task and associate it with that lead. So that's some very powerful stuff that we can do there. Now, how do we set that up? Let me go back here to my Dynamic Saturday AI and Chatbot and show you how we can do that. Come on now. Just going to reset this again. So this is another one of those steps that we have, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. Delete this. So here, this is where we can call that action. I'm going to say call an action, as you can see right over here. And this allows me to either create a new flow. As you can see, this will just launch that Power Automate in a new window, or I can use any of the flows that I have in this environment where my bot lives. And then I can just go ahead and start that. So that's how easy you can do that, right? We have some images here, as you can see. And then here I have my create lead or not. I have some emails that are being sent out, but that's where you can do that. And let me just go back here. Now, we can publish these bots on a lot of different platforms or channels, basically, right, as Microsoft called them. We can put them on a demo website. Obviously, it comes with a demo website. You saw that earlier. That's what I showed you in the beginning. But we can also use a custom website, right? So if you have your own website that you want to put it on, you can do that as well. There is other messaging platforms like Microsoft Teams, Facebook, mobile apps, right? Here's the list of everything that's currently available that you can use to actually publish your bot at. Now, publication usually takes less than a few minutes, but you got to make sure that every time you make a change or an update to any of those topics that you republish so that it actually gets pushed out to wherever you have, right? Obviously that bot connected, so to speak. Now, like I said earlier, make sure that you use that demo website only to try out your bot, right? You can share that link obviously with other people on your team and whoever else wants to try it out, but it is not meant for production use. Now, if you look at that website, that demo website, you can actually edit that welcome message and you can add some suggested trigger phrases as well. And people can then click on that. So let me just go back here real quick. And what I'm talking about is this, right? Here are some things my bot can help you with. I can click on this. So I can say, you can see there, I click on that and it just says hello. And it's like, I don't understand what you're talking about because I don't have that trigger phrase in there. But that's this can be configured. And you can configure that directly from within here, obviously, as well. If you go here to publish, you go here to demo website. Oops, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted. I go here to manage. Sorry, I got to go to channels, and here's your demo website. This is where those conversation starters are. This is where you can what you can change. You see here, good afternoon, which is also on here, right? So you can change that directly from within there as well. And then obviously you could add your bot to a live website, like I just said. You can do that, adding that as an iframe. So this could be obviously, like I said, customer facing, right? An external website, or it could be an internal website like SharePoint or a Yammer site. And if your organization is using Power App portals, obviously the bot can be added to those as well. And this is kind of how you can do that, right? You can see that there is that embed code that you can just go ahead and copy or even email out. And then you can embed that chatbot very easily. Now, the next thing I wanted to show you is that agent handoff, right? We kind of talked about that. So we can obviously use a third party for that, but we can also use Omnichannel for customer service, which is a paid add-on to Dynamics 365 customer service. And it's kind of nice because you don't have to do any integrations or anything like that. You only have to do a little bit of a setup, which is very easy, because believe me, I am not technical. I am not a developer. I don't do coding or any of that. But I was able to set this up by using the instructions on docs.microsoft.com to right? So that I can very seamlessly hand off an escalated conversation to a live agent using that Omnichannel for Dynamics 365 customer service. And the other thing that's kind of nice is that when you hand off that conversation in Omnichannel, you can share the full history of that conversation, as well as some user-defined variables. Now, that's part of Omnichannel. We can have pre-questions that we're asking before they start interacting with Power Virtual Agents. But it's nice to be able to kind of do that. So they can very quickly resume that conversation that they had with the bot here in Omnichannel for Dynamics 365. So let's take a look at that. I'm just going to go back here. And I have this here on my, I'm just going to, because it's been sitting here for a little bit, I'm just going to refresh this. And I'm just going to have these two guys next to each other. So I'm logged in here as Teresa Testing. Again, this has been sitting for an hour as well, so I'm just going to reload this real quick. So Teresa Testing is a customer service person that is logged into Omnichannel for customer service. Let me make sure that she's online, because yeah, there we go. She's available. And I'm just going to start my chat here with my chat bot. And here we go. These are those pre-chat questions that you can enter here that, again, is coming from Omnichannel, right? So I'm just going to put my email in here. And you can also have a case number so that when this is handed off to a live agent, they know exactly which case they're looking for, right? They were complaining about, so to speak. But I'm putting in my email address. I'm going to hit submit. And this should now launch my Power Virtual Agents. So I have one over here. There we go. Hi, I'm a virtual agent, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to say Omni. And let's take a look here. This is the Omni demo. Do you want us to contact you? No, not at this time. Do not want to be contacted. Let's see here. It has to think an awful long time. All right, let's give this a second here. I did refresh it, did I not? Maybe not. This is a joy of live demos. All right, let me just go ahead and try this again. I'm just going to refresh my screen here before we do this again. But basically, let's see if this works. My email address, again, I'm going to submit this. And that should pull up my Power Virtual Agents. It's connecting right now. Yep, here it is. Let's try this one more time. Omni, do you want us to contact you? I am going to say, no, I do not want to be contacted. There we go. Okay, what is your issue related to? It's related to my accounts. Okay, can I transfer you to a human agent? Yes, please do. That's what we're trying to show here, right? All right. So an agent will be with you in a moment. So what it's doing right now in Omnichannel is it's looking at all the agents that are available, and then at some point in time, pretty quickly, hopefully, it should assign that to an agent. And if I look over here, you can see here, this is that live chat. See here. It's actually, it just assigned it to me, but I did not get the notification. So you should get a notification. I'm not sure I might have to like clear my cache or something like that, because it should now show that notification saying that, hey, there is a chat. Do you want to accept it or not? So I'm not sure why it's not doing that. So that's kind of what you saw on that slide earlier. If I actually go back here for a second, this is what that notification looks like, right? And then I can just go ahead and accept that, or I can reject that. And what that page is then looking at, or what it looks like, I should say, is exactly what you see here is a chat that was the customer's conversation with that bot, it should recognize that email address. If that person is in your database, it should actually populate that. So you will have immediate access to that customer record. You're going to be able to see their recent cases. You're going to be able to see whatever their timeline, whatever is on their timeline, etc. So you can see it's kind of a, when it works, it's a very nice, quick, clean handoff from Dynamics 365, or I should say from Power Virtual Agents to Dynamics 365. Yeah, I'm not sure why that didn't come up, but anyways, let's go back here. And let's go to my next slide here. So there are some preview features currently available. One of them is the ability to export and import your bots across multiple environments. So obviously, I probably don't have to tell you guys that how useful this can be, right? If you're using different environments for different purposes, then, you know, this is going to be obviously a great feature. But keep in mind that preview features are available so that we can test this, right? And then we can give feedback to Microsoft, and then they can make changes and stuff. But in order to actually access these features, or this particular feature, I should say, you need to upgrade your existing bot, or I should say any existing bots that were built before June 2020. So if you start building a bot now, you should have that upgraded version where you can, you know, work with that preview. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that we all know now that in Power Virtual Agents, topics are triggered based on whatever the users entered, right? That is talking to the chat bot. But if the bot doesn't understand what the user is looking for and it can't find a topic to route the user to, it's basically going to ask the user again. And if it still doesn't understand it after two times, it will send a user to the escalate topic. And that's basically where it tries to send it to an agent. Now, system fallback allows us to configure a specific topic that the user will be routed to when the bot can't find an appropriate topic, or when it doesn't understand the user's input. Now, fallback topics can be configured similar to other topics. Users can add system fallback topics by going to that settings area. And that's what you see on the screenshot that's from the gear icon on the top right. So let me pull that up as well so I can kind of show that. Let me make this full screen again. So if you click over here, you can see here that I have my system fallback over here and my general settings. So this is where you can set up, as you can see, this system fallback, right? You can say, hey, I want to add a topic. I actually have one over here. And if this one is not correct, I can just go ahead and delete that. And then, right, if this is what you will see. So you can just go ahead and add that. Now, we also talked about the setup for transferring to an agent. As you can see, you can do that in the settings area as well. This is your transfer to agent area where you can set that up. And again, it's not really hard to do. Here, my bot is connected. If you want to set up that configuration, again, there's a lot here. If you click here on learn more about handoff, it has some documents in there as well that will allow you to configure that. Now, the last thing I wanted to share with you guys is this Power Virtual Agents community. And let me see if I can put this in a chat window for you guys. I guess I'm not sure how to do that when I'm presenting, but I will do that in a second. I would definitely check this out. There's a lot of different forums on here. Like if you guys have questions, right, that you can take a look at. There's some videos on here as well. There's, as you can see here, there's news and announcements on here as well. But this is kind of a nice thing to kind of look at, right? The newest updates. People are posting videos on here. There's blogs on here. I would definitely, like I said, kind of check this out if you're interested in learning more about this topic. Okay, time for questions and answers. Let me just stop sharing so if I can see some of the chat here.
I think there's quite a few questions, I guess, in the chat window. If you don't mind.
Yep.
And we still have one more session, everyone, before you go. Don't leave. We still have a very interesting session about building intelligent bots using the bot framework and cognitive services. Any questions you want to answer, Diana, or anything you've seen that?
Yeah, absolutely. So PVA comes with the licenses Office 365. No, it does not. It actually has its own license. Now, I work on the I'm really on the sales side in regards to pre-sales, which means that I build demos and everything. So I don't really work with licensing, but I think I know that it has its own license. But I think it's also the licensing goes on how many conversations are being had through customers and stuff like that. Is it possible to store the chat history in a D365 custom entity? Is it so in a D365 custom and the chat history itself? That is a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I do know that, like I said earlier, when you're using Dynamics 365 Omnichannel, you can review that data back. So I think it's already kind of storing that information. Omnichannel has a lot of different entities in there. Let me see. Is there a way to authenticate the user in the bot if I need to retrieve? Yes, there is a way to do that currently. Yes. That is a little bit more advanced, but you can do that definitely. And if you go to that website that I just mentioned, you can, let me see, I think I just copied it. Here we go. Here's the community website. But you can also kind of search for that, but there's definitely a way to authenticate that for sure, definitely. Yeah, pricing is crazy, right, Arthur? Arthur, I should say, sorry. Question on the Microsoft team. Why is there no app for Q&A like chats? I'm not sure, Aziz, what you mean by that. Yeah, I'm not sure what that means, what that question exactly means. If you want to elaborate a little bit more on what exactly you mean by that.
Aziz, do you want to come off chat and ask the question?
Yeah.
If you like. Come off mute, I mean, just ask the question verbally. No? Okay. Right. So, Dan, did you share your contact details? So if anyone wants to reach out to discuss this any further or ask questions, obviously there's LinkedIn and Twitter and yeah.
Absolutely. Let me actually reshare my screen.
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me just go back here. It does
lots of praise, awesome work, fantastic session. You know, well done.
Great. Thank you guys so much for your time. And feel free to, like I said, check out my blog, follow me on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, whatever you guys want to do. Thank you guys so much.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Dan. Yes, with Dan contacts here on the screen, we literally have the next session and the final session just in 1 minute or